Hello everybody and welcome to another watercolor tutorial. We are painting a beach scene today because this is probably going to be released in June, so it is appropriate to have beach themed paintings. So trying to figure out how best to tackle this. We are going to leave yourself a small gap at the top of your piece of paper in landscape position. So if you want, you can draw with a pencil just a faint line to mark it for yourself. Or you can just paint like a light sky, but the reason why I don't want to paint a sky is because then I'll confuse it with, like it'll blend into the waves, into the water, and we can always add that in later if we desire it. So, I think I'm going to paint the sand first. So you can pick up whatever sandy color you have. It can either be like a really light brown, like watered down, or it can be a yellow that's watered down. Like you have lots of options. I'm gonna actually add some brown into the bit that I have there. And we're gonna basically paint like almost a lightning bolt shape. So it's gonna come like this, and then we're gonna go zig, and then zag, and then zig, and then zag, zig. Sort of like that, and then it fades to that horizon point that we painted. And you can go ahead and fill that in. So you don't want this section to be too dark because we are going to be painting shadows onto it where the waves kind of crash onto the sand. And if you make it too dark, then it'll be harder to do that. So that is good, I think. Okay, the next step, by the way, I'm hoping this to be like an easier beach scene because I've painted waves before and I would still say they're easy, but they are just a little bit more lengthy. They take more time. There's more steps. So now I'm going to take a blue, like a baby blue. Oh my gosh, there's green on my paintbrush. There is always green on my paintbrush when I'm picking up blues. It's like the... anyway. So you want this blue watered down because you can always make it darker later, and it's harder to do the opposite. So we're gonna do something like we're gonna fill in this part, but before we do that, we have to create our outline for like the top of the wave where it starts to curl. So I'm actually gonna switch just to a smaller brush because I was using my I think size 14, yeah, my size 14, and I want a little bit more control. So this is all going to be filled in, but I do want to create a wave here. So this is going to be the part that's kind of curling. So it's going to go like this, and then it's going to start curling like this. And right now it doesn't make very much sense So I would actually encourage you to watch this video in its entirety before you attempt it, so that you have like you know why you're doing the things that you're doing. Because I can explain all I want, but at least for me, I'm a visual learner, so it's not until I see something being done that I'm like, oh, okay, I understand the point of why we're doing what we're doing. So yeah, so basically, it's so hard to explain, but this is the top of the wave. This indented part is where the wave starts like curling over itself, like crashing down. But we're gonna adjust that later. Right now we can just go ahead and fill this section in, but we're not filling it in entirely. We want to leave some of this white to kind of resemble that white foam that waves have, or that is created when waves kind of crash. So you can just leave a small white gap, and you can make that gap smaller as we go towards the horizon, because naturally it would look smaller as we go towards the horizon. So something like this. And I do want, even though I want to leave it white, I do want to fade that blue out just a tad, so it's not a super harsh white line. Something like that. Now, I'm going to do this while it's still wet because it's easier. I'm taking a darker blue, and I want it to be more of a navy blue, because I want it to appear, this is the shadow of the wave. So, okay, maybe we should wait until it dries, because I don't want it to do this, what it's doing right now. Well, I guess what we can do is just make this part a tad bit darker, and then we can add the shading in later, because it wouldn't make sense if we just went for a shadow here and then it was such a stark contrast. So I am gonna just add a darker portion here, let that naturally fade since this was still wet. And while this is drying, actually, I'm gonna pick up more of that same color, but a little bit more pigmented, and just line it again. And again, let that naturally fade downwards there. A little bit too much over here though. And as that is drying, I want one more wave. So I'm going to pick up that original light blue that was very watered down that we used. Actually, before we do that, I just want to finish this wave. So this actually should be a little bit more straight, like that. You could have some like not ripples, but waves in it. It's hard to explain, guys, I'm sorry. And then I want to water it down just a tad, because then we're gonna have this very thin line just above here, signifying our wave. And I want to water that down and just not even fill it in. You just want to create these downward strokes like this to make it look like that wave is crashing. And look, and make sure you leave that little white gap, because it's it'll show, what is that called? You guys are really good at giving me the terminology for the most random things. But what's that white part of a wave called when it's crashing down? Because that's what I want to create here. I'm missing the vocabulary, as I do often. Anyways, so back to that second wave that I want to start painting. We're gonna do, it doesn't have to be quite as precise because it's more in the distance, but I'm just gonna paint a line like this, and I'm just gonna extend it a little bit like this with very, very watered down blue. And then once this dries, it's not gonna be completely dry when I wanna add it because I do want it to fade in, but I'm gonna add a very dark strip here to signify the crashing wave, or sorry, the shadow that is under the curl of the wave. So I'm just picking up that navy blue again, and I'm gonna apply it to this under part. And you can even add a tad bit of black if you're having a hard time making it as dark as you want it. And then I also want to do the same up here. So this one doesn't have to be as precise because it is just in the distance. And I'm extending it downwards a tad because I didn't get as much of a good contrast here. Unfortunately, like the blue really bled downwards and it became a lot darker down below here than I wanted it to, but that's okay. What else? So it naturally, sorry. This is supposed to be kind of an abstract beach look. So just keep that in mind, that this is not, I'm saying now that we're not going for the details, but inevitably I will start adding details because I can't help myself. I also erased that horizon line because I want to now fill in the rest of this with blue, not the sky, but like the rest of the below the horizon line. But I want it to be very light blue, and I want it to actually be straight and not the horrible job that I've done here with the horizon line. There we go. I'm not quite happy with how dark this is. I do want it to be even darker than it is. So I'm just taking black again with my navy blue to create a darker navy blue. There we go. Now, the other thing that I want to do is do something very similar to the sand, because right now the sand looks very monotoned and, well, it is one tone, it's one color, but what I mean is that it looks kind of like a child painted it. There's no value, there's no shadowing, I'm not the best at the terminology, but you know, let's add something to it to make it pop a little bit more. So I'm going to add shadows to the sand. So just like we added them underneath the waves to show that the wave is curling, we're going to add shadows to the edge of the sand. But try to keep the shadows only to like the top part, like the parts that kind of go vertical. So here, here, and here. We will not be adding the shadows. Just the parts that are more going horizontally, like so. And already just by adding that, it looks so much better, I think. You can make the part closer to the viewer a little bit wider so that it does look closer to the viewer. And then these ones a little bit narrower, like thinner. And the other thing I would like to do is make the ones closer to the viewer darker. Well, I guess I'm going to darken all of them just so they pop a little bit more. I am not a fan of these harsh lines, so I kind of faded them out a bit. I mean, I think that's a little much. I wouldn't go as thick as I did, because right now it looks like these waves are blocks that are sitting above the sand, but oh, the other thing I want to do, I just thought of this now, is add footprints in the sand, because otherwise it'll look a teensy weensy bit bare. So all I'm doing is I took the same color as I had here, although I kind of ran out of it, so I need to blend myself a new batch. And I'm spacing, like I'm making these footsteps as we go towards the back there. I make them a little bit smaller, like so. I'm just going to pretend that some of these footprints disappeared with the waves. Okay. And what are we gonna do now? I still would like to make this section a little bit darker. If you're happy with yours, you don't have to, you know, continue adding layers like I am. Okay. And the other thing that I would like to do, and we'll see if I even can, I'm gonna take some of my white watercolor, because my acrylic paint is in another room, and I just want to line the sand a tad. was still wet, so it bled a little bit, and it's not as opaque as I want it to be. Let me see. I really don't want to go get the white acrylic paint, but I think it would really enhance the painting. Right now I'm just smacking my paintbrush with the white watercolor against another paintbrush, and I'm just trying to make it splashy, like it look splashy. But I also wanted to line this and kind of make this look a little bit more distinct from the wave above it. And I probably could, I just would have to wait for this to dry to not risk, yeah, see, that is why I need to be more patient. Yeah, I think I'm just gonna leave it. It's supposed to be an abstract painting, guys, so just something really quick, a really quick and easy beach scene. So let me know what you guys thought of this one. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, and I will be sure to see you in the next tutorial.